Welcome, folks, to yet another edition of the ETBU Coaches Show. Mark T. Robinson here with head acrobatics and tumbling coach Farrah Dunaway. And before we get to any of the talking points of the show here, this is brought to you by our friends at Hometown Tire. So, Coach, you guys opened up the season against UMHB, who consequently is also starting their acro and tumbling team as well this year. So just kind of talk about, matching up with a team like that, opening up at home, which was a very good crowd, by the way. Just kind of talk about, what you saw from your team as a head coach out there.
Yeah, I feel like I came into this meet with a little bit more self-imposed pressure than need be. But, the crowd was awesome, and we loved being at home. We loved the support from our fellow athletes on campus. There was even a group of athletes that held up 10 signs for us, because the star value for a lot of things is 10. And so it was really just great to have friends and family here supporting us. And as far as the meet was concerned, we loved it. We loved being able to compete against another Division III team. We loved to be able to, just open up and get the season started. As far as what I saw from the meet, man, I was just pleasantly surprised because, these ladies have been working so hard for months, and just to be able to see what the product of their labor was just so great. And, not only their execution of things, but because, regardless of how great I think their execution is, we're in a sport where we're going to be critiqued, and we're going to be able to always identify something that needs to be better. But outside of that, just watching their faces when they celebrate each other after they've executed some things was just, it was wonderful. And it's one of those things that as a coach, that's what you coach for, is to be able to see those successes and see that they are celebrating each other in those successes. And, and on the other side of that, we had some hiccups where, athletes that I would never have banked on them not executing, had that meet. And there were some elements that just didn't go. And, again, I would never have, had those two athletes or that situation occur, but it did. And just watching those athletes be able to support each other and get past that was great, So, we coach, and they play in a sport that is, a lot of times subjective, and I think they did a great job in being coached and going out there and executing to the best of their ability at that time. And I just can't wait to see, as they continue to work and as they continue to refine these elements, to get better.
Absolutely. And was there any part of this entire meet to open up that, really surprised you in the fact that, that some pairs or some groups did better than expected for you? Or was there any of that from you in the opening meet for you guys?
Execution-wise, no. As a coach, you hope that everybody's just having a good day. So outside of that, there were really no surprises because they're just great athletes, and they're great people, and they worked hard. And so, it's not that I expected it, but I looked forward to seeing that happen. I think I was more surprised by the mistakes I had made in the start value file. This being my first year to even try to digest that coding system. I really thought that this time I had it, but I lost a few points more than, I should have. That really hurt my team. So my goal is that I don't have those mistakes this next time around. But I think that was my biggest surprise, is thinking that I had it all together and then I didn't. So
absolutely. And were there any of the first-year athletes for your team that, had a little bit of jitters coming in? Or was there part of the preparation process where you kind of had to take them aside or just tell them, It's just like practice. It's just like you've been doing a million times before. Was there any part of that coming into the meet?
Yeah, I think that preparing an athlete for the emotional or the mental aspect of the game, no matter what the sport is huge. And we do a ton of imagery going into practice. We do a ton of imagery and just tackling the mental aspect of what they're doing while we're in practice every week. And before we go into our pregame warm-up, we tackle that again as well. And regardless of if they're a rookie or a returner, they're going to have fears. They're going to have fears of failure. They're going to have fears of lack of execution or letting their teammates down, letting their parents down. Their parents are, sending them to a university that, they love, and they're spending a lot of time doing something and laboring for this sport, and their parents are wanting to see products as well. So I know that the kids or the athletes are feeling a lot of pressure, from external sources. And then, they have their own internal fears or issues going on too. So when we enter a meet, we always try to, just get on a good, good start, a good page when it comes to that. This time in particular, we talked about fears. So no matter what the fear was, and we looked at Bible verses that contained just conquering the fear and faith. And we talked a little bit about the faith of the mustard seed and faith, that mustard seed being able to move a mountain, and not necessarily a literal mountain into the sea, but any mountain that we conceive or we perceive to move it behind us. And I think a lot of them viewed this meet as a big mountain. So to be able to talk about that and wrap our heads around that before the meet, I feel like it helped them a little bit more to be able to attack what they were about to face in there. So, they're returners, but we as a program have, elevated the skill level too, or the start value or the challenges. So, despite the familiarity with it, the challenges are going to be higher. And I think that's kind of how I coach too, which, right or wrong, we're always going to try to obtain and try to execute the highest possible start value. So there's going to be a level of fear in that challenge.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I was really interested in while watching the meet is just like seeing all of the parents there to support, their kids, these athletes, the school. They've traveled from probably, 4 or 5 hours away to come in and see, this acro meet, because acro's a little bit different to where there's only 3 this year here at home. So, there's limited chance to see the team. What was your thought process just seeing all the parents out there to support the team?
I loved it. In the moments that I have to think about other things, I tried to think, okay, what kind of atmosphere do we want to create while we're here? And I know that, the athletes were so excited to have their families there. So, watching other meets online or just being a part of game day atmosphere and other sports, I just try to look around and think, okay, if the athletes are on the mat or on the floor, if they were to look around, what kinds of things do they want to see? And so when we were at the basketball game the day before, I spent the time cutting out fat heads and putting together fat heads of all the athletes so that when the parents got here, they could have a fat head of their athlete and then kind of use it as their little paper cheerleader as they're on the mat. So I don't know, I love the sports atmosphere no matter what the sport is, and I'm just excited to be able to integrate those fun things in acrobatics and tumbling, and whether it's a paper fat head of the athlete or just anything, or a 10 sign in the stands. I think just anything, when the girls look up, that extra encouragement and motivation, I feel like it does propel them on the mat, and it lets them know that the fans are in this too, and they're part of what they're doing. So I do feel like it makes for a much better game day atmosphere, and hopefully propels them to just push even harder when they feel like they can't go anymore out there.
Absolutely. And I also want to know, are there any fat heads of the coaches since you have some of the players?
I didn't make one, but because of the Toby Awards.
Yeah, right.
Yes, there is one in Ryan's office, and it's a lot larger than the fat heads that I made of the girls. The ones that I made of the athletes is actually them in their jersey, so it does show. It shows a little bit more than just their big bubble head. So it's a little less embarrassing, but yeah, that one does exist.
Absolutely. Maybe we can have it make an appearance
Great.
in the next interview at some point.
I look forward to that.
Absolutely. But you guys are going to be on the road now. So you're traveling to, and correct me if I'm wrong about the direction here, you're traveling to Michigan, and then you're going over to, I believe you're going over to Wisconsin, or is it Wisconsin, Michigan?
Yeah, so we're going to Milwaukee, or actually, yeah, we're going to be staying in Milwaukee, but we're going to Wisconsin first. So we're going to play Concordia University of Wisconsin, and then we're going to travel over to Adrian, Michigan. And I am super excited about that because, number one, again, we're getting to play against Division III programs, and I absolutely have fallen in love with both of those head coaches of those programs. So it's, to me, again, it's just more of a, yes, we get to go compete against them, but we are still being part of something that's great, and that's not only the acrobatics and tumbling family, but the Division III growth of this sport too. And to be able, if I'm going to be going on spring break and, going to be traveling 16 hours and whatnot with my athletes, I'm so thankful that it's with, or two places of the coaches that I just adore. So I'm really looking forward to being at their homes and competing. But also, I'm pretty excited about being on the road with all of the athletes because that always proves to make for good stories and good times. So, we have a really great group of ladies, and I'm excited about what happens on the bus, what happens in the hotel room, what happens in the gym. All of it makes for just memories that you can't ever have doing anything else.
Absolutely. There's just something about being on the road with your team. You get to learn more about your athletes, their backgrounds, what makes them tick and things of that nature. So it's always fun. But you guys, you said you were doing this during spring break. You go in the opposite direction. Normally people go to beaches and things like that. So
well, we are staying on the river up there, so we'll see some water.
Okay.
But I'm kind of hoping for the paradox of I want it to be warm, but I want to see snow. I don't know if that's possible.
Wow.
But I don't know. I know some of the athletes haven't seen snow, so that will be nice for them. Last year we saw a little bit of snow, and they got to dance around in the McDonald's parking lot and catch it on their tongues. But I think that was as far as it went with the snow. So if we're going to go up there, I want to see some snow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But is there any part of the job for you, and for your athletes as well, is there any part that, now that you know what to expect from the first year, is there any part that has become easier for you, or in a way has it become a little bit harder because the expectations are a little bit higher now that it's year two?
I think it's a little bit of both. I'm not as blind this year on some things. I mean, I'm getting older, so visually I'm getting more blind. But I'm not as blind going into things as much this year. But I do feel like there's a lot more pressure put on. But I feel like it's mostly the pressure that I put on myself as far as, just coaching. I just want to make sure that I'm preparing these athletes to be the very best that they can be while they're here, while they're in my care. So, that's what really stunk about, losing the points that I did playing Mary Hardin Baylor, because I knew that right before going into it, I was getting some neutral penalties that were all me, So my perspective on that is I should know better, and I know it's not a perfect system, and I'm always going to make mistakes in regards to that because it's a huge file, but I will always have more pressure on myself, or put more pressure on myself, just to make sure that there's no mistakes on my end to set my athletes up for success. So whether it's training them the proper way, or preparing them mentally I feel like the first year I gave myself room for excuses. Well, it's okay, it's my first year, so it's fine if I don't know this. But now I'm like, there's no reason I shouldn't know this, you know? So again, yes, the pressure is there, but that's where I have to just remember that my athletes are amazing, and they are not putting the pressure on me. They're very gracious when it comes to those things because they've seen the monster of the SV file, and they're having fun what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, they're great. They're gracious when it comes to it, but I definitely put a lot more pressure on myself for that.
Absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you guys this year. Your next meet here at home. It's going to be a little bit, but you guys are going on the road.
Yeah.
We'll keep up to date with everything that's going on with you guys. So thanks for joining us,
You're
Coach.
welcome.
And we would like you to keep up with all things sports related here at ETBU, at goetbtigers.com, or follow us on social media at goetbtigers. Once again, Mark T. Robinson, head acro and tumbling coach. Farrah Dunaway will be back on the Coaches Show after this. Thanks for joining us.